Hi everyone, welcome to Sunday School. It's so lovely to see you. So Elaine will be doing the story this morning.
You're watching Live Tree Kids. Check out some of our other videos right there, and don't forget to subscribe.
Yet will I rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation. God the Lord, God the Lord, Jesus is my strength. He makes my feet like hinds' feet, makes me walk on my high places.
Okay, so good morning everybody. There's lovely to see you all today. Hope that everybody is well. Now at the minute, I don't know if you can see what today's story is going to be. I'm going to let you think about that for a minute. I've got on this top especially for today's story, this hoodie thing. So I want you to think about that, why you think the connection of today's story is linked with what I've got on. So let's think, we've got lots of change at the minute, haven't we, in the world? Lots of things are different, school's different, coming to church is different, and we're all coping with that. But we know that God is in control, don't we? And God has got all this in hand. And it's not just me saying that, and mums and dads and aunties and uncles and everybody. It's what it says in the Bible, and if we believe the Bible, then we know that that's true. So we've got some verses in the Bible. We've got Psalm 46 and verse 10, and that says, "Be still and know that I am God." Then we've got another one. Remember the story in Matthew where the wise man builds his house on the rocks and the foolish man builds his house on the sand? So if in this time of change and everything all upside down, if we remember that story and build our lives on Jesus, on that solid rock, rather than on the sand that keeps changing, we won't go far wrong. We'll do very well indeed. And also at this time, we were all perhaps a bit frightened and can't quite work out all these changes. Remember that story as well, where Jesus walks on the water and Peter takes his eyes off him, and when he starts to walk on the water and he starts to sink. So again, that's another story for us to remember in these times, isn't it? That we've got to keep our eyes on Jesus all the time. So, what's that other verse now? Matthew 5, verse 16. Let your light shine so that others can see it. So we've got to let our light shine. We've got to be shining for Jesus in our faces and our lives. We've got to be showing everybody around us who's all worried about this COVID and all this sickness that we've got it all in control. God's got it all in control. Let our light shine. Let our faith in Jesus shine to everybody. So if we let our light shine like a torch in the dark times, others will be able to see Jesus. So if you've got a torch, maybe on your phone or on your iPad or just an old-fashioned torch with batteries, you can perhaps put that on for this story. And when all the good bits are happening, you can be shining your torch. And when things are not going so well, you can take your torch off and you can not shine it round the room. Be a good idea, wouldn't it? So, have you thought yet what the story is about with this colourful jacket holding it up so that you can see it? Look, it's a story in Genesis, and that's right, for those that have guessed, it's the story of Joseph. And this is my Joseph coat, my coat of many colours. A long time ago, in the land of Canaan, there lived a great Hebrew chieftain named Jacob, who had many sons. Of all of his sons, Jacob loved young Joseph the most. As Joseph grew older, his brothers saw how their father loved their younger brother more than he loved them. To make matters worse, Joseph often told his father about his brother's bad behaviour. The firstborn son of Reuben behaved so badly that Jacob took away his special blessing called his birthright and gave it to Joseph. When I die, Joseph will rule this family, said Jacob. He gave him a beautiful coat of honour to show everybody how much he loved his younger son. Joseph was proud of his beautiful, colourful coat. He wore it everywhere he went, but when the brothers saw that their father had done, they became even more jealous of Joseph and wanted him gone. One night, while everyone was sleeping, Joseph had a strange dream. When he woke the next morning, he could hardly wait to tell his brothers. In my dream, our family was tying up grain together, and your bundles of grain all bowed down to mine. Joseph's brothers did not want to hear about their younger brother's strange dream. Yes, they mocked, you'll certainly be our king. You'll do a great job of bossing us around. Before long, Joseph had another dream. Listen, he said, in this dream the sun, the moon and 11 stars all bowed down to me. This time he told his father Jacob as well as his brothers. What is this strange dream you have had, said Jacob. Do you think your family will come and bow down to you? The brothers agreed. We will not bow down to our younger brother. He thinks he is better than all of us. Their hearts grew bitter and they began to hate him even more. Although Jacob and his family lived in tents, Jacob was a wealthy man. He owned a great many flocks of sheep and goats and many camels and donkeys. Every day his family worked hard in the fields and took care of the animals. One day the brothers took their father's sheep to graze in fields far away. After Jacob had not seen them for many days, he sent Joseph, "Go to your brothers and see if they are keeping out of trouble." Joseph quickly obeyed his father. He threw on his beautiful, colourful coat and set out to find his brothers. When the brothers saw Joseph in the distance, one of them said, "Here comes the dreamer. Let's kill him and say a wild animal ate him." The brothers nodded. "There is no one around. Who will see what we've done?" But Reuben, who secretly hoped to rescue Joseph later, shook his head. "No, don't let's kill him. Let's throw him in a well instead." When Joseph reached his brothers, they grabbed him, stripped off his beautiful, colourful coat, and tossed him into a dark and empty well. "Don't leave me here," Joseph shouted up to his brothers. "What have I done to you?" The brothers peered down into the well and laughed. "Let's see what comes of your dreams now." As the sun began to set, the brothers sat down by the well to eat their meal. Soon a group of traders appeared in the distance, their camels loaded with spices to sell in Egypt. The brothers scrambled to their feet and pointed to the men. "Reuben is not here. Now's our chance. Let's sell our young brother to these traders." The brothers pulled Joseph out of the well and sold him to the traders for 20 pieces of silver. When Reuben returned, it was too late. Joseph had gone. His brothers had carried out their wicked plan and sold him into slavery. The brothers dipped Joseph's colourful coat in blood from a goat and took it home to show their father. "Is this Joseph's coat?" they asked Jacob. And Jacob grabbed the coat in horror. "My son must have been eaten by wild animals." He tore his clothes in sadness and wept for many days. Meanwhile, Joseph and the traders travelled through the desert until they reached the gates of Egypt. Joseph looked up at the buildings in amazement. Enormous stone pharaohs sat on their thrones. Huge shining pyramids rose high in the air. "What will happen to me?" he wondered. "Will I ever see my father again?" The traders sold Joseph to Potiphar, an important officer in the court of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Life in Egypt was very different from the land of Canaan. Potiphar's family ate strange food and prayed to false gods, but Joseph stayed true to Yahweh's command. "I will only pray to Yahweh, the one true God." Joseph worked hard for Potiphar, who in turn was pleased. "Your God has blessed you. I will put you in charge of my house and all my servants." From then on, God blessed Potiphar and everything he owned because of Joseph. Years passed and all went well with Joseph. But there was just one problem. Potiphar's wife liked Joseph and tried to kiss him. While her husband was away from home one day, she asked Joseph to spend time with her, but he said, "No, your husband has asked me to take care of the house, not you." Potiphar's wife did not give up. Day after day she begged Joseph to spend time with him, but Joseph feared God and did not listen. One day she came up with a very nasty plan, and while Joseph worked in the house, she grabbed his robe, but he ran away, and as he ran away, he left the robe in her hand. Potiphar's wife flew into a terrible rage. "If Joseph does not want me, I will get him into trouble." That night she told her husband a lie about Joseph. "The Hebrew slave Joseph, he tried to kiss me, but I screamed and ran away." Potiphar was furious, thumping his fists on the table. He said, "How dare Joseph betray me? Throw him into prison." Joseph was thrown into prison for many years. God was with him though, and he was soon put in charge of all the other prisoners. During this time, Pharaoh became angry with his butler and his baker and threw them into the same prison as Joseph, who took care of them. One night, while they were sleeping, the butler and the baker each had a strange dream. The next morning they said to Joseph, "We had a dream we do not understand," Joseph answered. God helps men understand dreams. Tell me about your dream. First, the butler told Joseph, I saw a vine with 3 branches and many ripe grapes. I squeezed the grapes and into Pharaoh's cup and gave it to him to drink. Joseph said, in 3 days, Pharaoh will give you back your job. The baker was excited to hear about the butler's dream. He grabbed Joseph's arm. In my dream, there were 3 baskets full of bread on my head, but the birds ate all the bread, so there was none left. Joseph looked at the baker, very sad. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will order that you die. 3 days later, Pharaoh had a magnificent birthday party at his palace. During the party, Pharaoh summoned the butler and the baker. The butler got his old job back, but the baker was killed just as Joseph had warned. 2 years passed and Joseph was still in prison. One night, Pharaoh had 2 dreams that he could not understand. In one dream, 7 fat cows came to the river Nile to feed. Then 7 thin cows came out of the river and ate the fat cows. Pharaoh woke up and then fell back to sleep and dreamed he saw 7 ears of grain growing, then 7 thin ears of grain. The thin ears ate the fat ears. When he woke the next morning, he summoned his magicians to the palace. Tell me what these dreams mean, he shouted. But no matter how hard they tried, the magicians just could not explain the meaning of Pharaoh's dream. Suddenly, the butler remembered Joseph in prison. There is a Hebrew prisoner who understands dreams, he said. Perhaps he can understand your dreams. Pharaoh's face lit up. My useless magicians don't know anything. Fetch this Hebrew who understands my dreams. Pharaoh sat on the edge of his golden throne and looked hopefully at Joseph. My useless magicians cannot explain my dream, but my servant told me you can. Joseph answered, God understands dreams, not me. He will help me know the meaning of your dreams. He listened carefully while Pharaoh explained his strange dream. Your dreams are warnings from God, said Joseph. Egypt will have 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. No grain will grow anywhere. You should gather food now and save it for later. Pharaoh had never met anyone as wise as Joseph. Taking a ring from his own finger, he placed it on Joseph's hand. He hung a shiny gold chain around his neck and gave him fine linen clothes to wear. You shall now rule all of Egypt, said Pharaoh. Everyone must do what you say. Joseph was 30 years old when he became governor of Egypt. Only Pharaoh was more important among the people than Joseph. To help Joseph rule Egypt, Pharaoh gave him a magnificent golden chariot to ride. Wherever Joseph went, Pharaoh's servants walked in front of the chariot shouting, Bow your knee to the governor of Egypt. Because God showed Joseph there would be famine, he understood what to do next. During the next 7 years, he built long canals to store water and huge storehouses to store food. Joseph collected as much grain as that he couldn't count it all. When the 7 years of plenty were over, the 7 years of famine came. The sun blazed down and the ground turned to dust. The Egyptians became so hungry that their stomachs grumbled. We're starving. Please give us food to eat, they cried to Pharaoh. Pharaoh knew that Joseph had planned for this famine. He said to the Egyptians, Go to Joseph and do what he tells you. So Joseph opened all of his storehouses. He sold grain to the Egyptians, and everybody had enough to eat. The famine spread throughout the land of Canaan, where Joseph's family lived. When his father Jacob learned there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, Go to Egypt and buy food, so we won't die. But Jacob kept Benjamin home with him. He did not want to lose another son like he had lost Joseph. Jacob's sons saddled their donkeys and set out for Egypt. Never in their wildest dreams could they have imagined that the powerful Egyptian governor was their own brother Joseph. When the brothers reached Egypt, they bowed down before him and said, "There is no grain left in the land of Canaan. We have come to buy food for our families." None of them recognized Joseph in his fine Egyptian clothes, but Joseph recognized his brothers at once. The dreams that God had given him all those years ago had finally come true. Joseph came up with a plan. He decided to keep it a secret that he was their brother, using a Hebrew man to speak to them. He said, "You are spies. You have come to spy on Egypt." Joseph's brothers shook their heads. "No, we're not spies. We're from the land of Canaan and have come to buy food." "I do not believe you," said Joseph. "How do I know you're not spies?" He put them in prison for 3 days. On the 3rd day, he said, "Take some grain and go home. Fetch your youngest brother and bring him back to me. Then I will know that you're telling the truth." The brothers trembled with fear. Was God punishing him? When the frightened brothers arrived home, they told their father everything that had happened. "The governor of Egypt threw Simeon in prison. We must return to Egypt with Benjamin so that we can free our brother." On the way home, "I found the money we used to buy the grain hidden inside our sack of food," said Zebulun. "What's God going to do with us?" The brothers emptied their sacks of food. To their surprise, money was hidden in their sacks too. Jacob stared at the money anxiously. "I will never let you take Benjamin to Egypt. I would die if something happened to him." However, the day came when the grain they brought from Egypt had almost gone. Jacob said to his sons, "Go back to Egypt and buy more food." "We must take Benjamin with us," said. "Otherwise the governor will throw us all in prison." Jacob sighed and gazed at Benjamin. "Okay," he said, "take Benjamin with you. If I must lose all my children, so be it." Joseph's brothers set out for Egypt again, this time with Benjamin. They took many gifts for the governor, including double the amount of money to pay back what was hidden in their sacks. When Joseph saw Benjamin with his brothers, he let Simeon out of prison and invited everyone to eat with him. "Prepare a huge feast," he said to his servants. "These men will eat with me tonight." The brothers looked nervously at each other. "Why is the governor inviting us to a meal? Perhaps he put the money in our sacks so that he can steal our donkeys and make us slaves." The men had nothing to fear that night. Joseph held a feast for his brothers, but something unusual happened at the meal. He seated them at the table from the oldest to the youngest and served Benjamin 5 times more food than the others. "How does he know our ages?" he whispered. "Why has he given Benjamin more food?" When the meal was over, the brothers wanted to go home. Joseph told his servants, "Fill their sacks with as much food as they can carry. Hide my silver cup in Benjamin's sack." He wanted to see if they loved Benjamin or if they would treat their youngest brother the same cruel way they had treated him years ago. The next morning, the brothers left for the land of Canaan, but they didn't get far. Joseph sent a servant after them to accuse them of stealing his silver cup. When the servant reached them, he said, "The governor's silver cup is missing. Have you taken it?" "No," they said, "we have stolen nothing. There is no way we would steal the governor's cup." Joseph's servants did not believe them. One by one, he searched their sacks for food. Inside Benjamin's sack, he found the missing cup. "You are a pack of thieves," he shouted. The brothers stared at the cup full of fear. "We don't know why the cup is in Benjamin's sack. None of us would steal this cup." But the servant did not listen to the brothers. He marched them back into the city to stand before Joseph. At Joseph's house, the brothers threw themselves on the ground before him, begging for mercy. How can we prove that we did not steal your silver cup? Joseph looked down at the men. Did you think you could trick me? He said sternly. Joseph pointed to Benjamin. From now on, Benjamin will be my slave. The rest of you can go home. Worried their father would be broken-hearted if they came home without Benjamin, Judah stepped forward and knelt at Joseph's feet. Do not keep Benjamin, he said. Our father has already lost one son. Let me be his slave instead. Joseph was filled with love for his family because they cared for Benjamin. He was sure their hearts had changed and were no longer wicked and cruel. Taking a deep breath, he ordered all of his servants from the room. It was time to share his incredible secret. Joseph's eyes filled with tears and he began to weep. I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery, he said. Is my father still alive? The brothers stared at Joseph in disbelief. They were so afraid that they could not speak. With their legs shaking like jelly, they looked at each other. Would Joseph punish them for betraying him all those years ago? But they had nothing to worry about. Joseph loved his brothers and had already forgiven them. Don't be afraid, he said. God made me rule over Egypt. He sent me here to save lives. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. Joseph understood that God had a plan to save his people from the beginning. Soon the brothers were talking and laughing and sharing stories. Go and fetch our father and your families and come back to Egypt, said Joseph. I will take care of you. Pharaoh was pleased too. He said to Joseph, tell your brothers to take my wagons to carry their wives and children. Bring your father with them. I will give them the best land in Egypt, and they will have plenty to eat. The brothers hurried back to the lane of Canaan to see their father. Joseph is still alive, they told him. He is ruler over all of Egypt. At first Jacob did not believe him, but when he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to take them to Egypt, he knew his sons were telling the truth. Jacob packed up everything he owned and set out for Egypt. On the way, God spoke to Jacob, whose name he changed to Israel. I will go with you to Egypt, and you will become a great nation. One day I will bring this nation home. As soon as Joseph heard his family had arrived in Egypt, he jumped in his chariot and raced off to meet them. When they met, Joseph kneeled before his father and wept for a very long time. Now I can die in peace, said Israel. I have seen my son alive. Pharaoh kept his promise. He gave Joseph's family the best land in all of Egypt. They worked hard and became rich in every way, and for many years the Hebrew people lived peacefully in Egypt because of what Pharaoh had done. So we can see from that story, can't we, that Joseph's brothers were not very nice at the beginning, and they meant everything that they did, they meant to be bad towards Joseph. But God used that badness of the brothers into something good. He had a plan for Joseph. I wonder what God's plan is for us in our lives. God will show us, and it's lovely to see all of that develop as the time goes on. So do you remember the verses that we thought about and talked about at the beginning of the story? It's in the Psalm 46, be still and know that I am God. See, Joseph knew all along, didn't he, that God was with him. And the light shining as well before the people. Joseph let his light shine, didn't he, in that prison cell, so that everybody knew that God was with him. So at the right time, he was able to come out of the prison and help with the telling of the dreams, didn't he? And what other verses did we have at the beginning about Jesus walking on water and Peter going to him, keeping his eyes on God? Peter, he took his eyes off Jesus, didn't he, for that minute, and he sank. Well, Joseph kept his eyes on God, didn't he, all the way through that horrible time when he was in the prison and all put there because of a lie, isn't it? We've got to remember all of these verses and all of the stories that we learn in Sunday school and see that they all come together and that God is in control of our lives, just as he was with Joseph all of those years ago. So I hope you've enjoyed this story. It was a long one, wasn't it? Thank you for listening and your patience. You sat all very well. So I'll see you soon. Take care now. Bye.
Will I rejoice in the Lord? I will joy in the God of my salvation. God the Lord, God the Lord, Jesus is